Hi, everybody. This is day 1,828 days since Richard his chain of command by those that wanted to silence him, and his life was taken from him. And we are on look the day after. We're on August 4th, 2025. We just missed that August 3rd. I think I did it late early in the morning when it first came in and wanted to talk about the 6-year anniversary of the Walmart mass shooting. It has consumed our life ever since we put all the puzzle pieces together and saw that those that hurt Richard are also those that um, participated in the orchestration and cover up, manipulation, um, uh, retaliation, all of that surrounding the Walmart mass shooting, the fraud, the huge fraud, also the um, impersonating to fool the system and get money. And yeah, absolutely, all of those. It's all intertwined. Same people, same criminal group that are tied to the cartel. And the cartel have been now day one of President Trump's administration, this 47th administration. Um, he designated um, Mexican cartels as FTOs, not all of them. That's why I hesitated a little bit, because the Juarez cartel has not been designated an FTO. But the Sinaloa has, and the new generation has too. Um, yeah, that, let's see if I'm on. Let's see. So we've had a lot happening, a lot happening. And I think it can get a little frustrating for a lot of Republicans, because their eyes are being opened that there was an infiltration, a cartel protecting, a criminal trafficking protecting, probably profiting off of it too. When we uh, and narco politicians that have infiltrated into the Republican Party. And we've been saying all along that this is so big. This is way bigger than the Iran Contra scandal. This is way bigger. This is billions and billions of dollars. So it doesn't surprise us that eh, the Democrat Party is totally gone, right? It's totally, it's insanity, totally insanity, how they're running their party. And the Republican Party has been infiltrated, right? It has been infiltrated, and we've been saying that all along. Um, and of course, the Pentagon has been infiltrated. Okay, the Pentagon has been. When you get someone like uh, General Kelly, John Kelly, that is compromised, right? When you get someone like him that's totally compromised, that illegally went and worked for the Mexican state of Chihuahua's governor, right? When he was Southcom, right? When he absolutely, I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And then people get rattled when you say, look, did the weapons from that Patrick Crucius used, was that source from Fort Bliss? Were weapons smuggled out of Fort Bliss and used in these major crimes, like a mass shooting crime, like a weaponization of crime? This is what we know from Bob Moore, that he will manufacture crimes in order to report on the crime, right? It's very, very clear that, you know, there is this deep state, and that we have been lied to over and over and over again, and that deep state is tied to the cartel, which is tied to the CCP, right? And of course it is, because it has to do with trading. And that's why President Trump's focus on trading is, gets our attention, because that means that he is challenging the flow of trade that has made these criminals very, very rich, and he's challenging them, and also their way of trading has destroyed our country, our middle class. I just saw a chart out with 30-year-olds that are not married and do not own a home, and it is so low. It's so low. And I'm just very proud of my family. We've worked very, very hard to to keep the sacraments, because that's what that is. That's keeping the sacraments. Um, that marriage is very, very much part of life. Um, and this is a step into uh, a life that honors God. Um, and I mean, that's a whole nother Bible lesson, right? The sacraments. But so the destruction of our economy, the destruction of ownership, because ownership is so important to the free world. Otherwise, you're just slaves, right? So, this destruction of ownership, this destruction of there's nothing like marriage. There's nothing like marriage. I mean, uh, when you really have a society that works very hard, and I've been very fortunate. I'm married to a magnificent hero, an absolutely patriotic hero. He should get every medal in the book for what he's done in this case. He's just total hero, and keeping our family together during these 5 years, and happily together, supporting and happily. What I'm meaning is that we have worked together to get through this hardest time of our life. Right, the most sad time. I just can't even tell you how horrific these 5 years have been. And uh, and that has taken a wonderful marriage, to keep it going, right? To keep the family going. It has taken a strong marriage to do that. I don't think single people can deal with it. Um, there are needs that only a married couple know of each other. And if you're in a selfless service kind of marriage, um, it makes it possible to get through this, and to get through it um, with joy. And and the joy is not like what people think, happy and laughing and this and that, but know that it's the joy of salvation. It's a joy of God's righteousness. It's the joy of fighting for what is good and what is true in our future. Um, it's a different. It's not like, oh, let me go party kind of joy. Um, so uh, it is very, very important to have a society that honors marriage, that will nurse marriage, right? Nurse it and teach it, and nurse it and support it in every which way, to make them healthy, to make marriages healthy, to make families healthy. And what has happened is this infiltration. You can tell it's evil because it's done everything in its book to hinder it, to destroy it, to make it miserable, to uh, to get distrust, to have adultery, to, everything it can to ruin marriage, to ruin the family. So you know that it has evil intentions. And so it was not surprising to us when you see all of this and the writing is on the wall. You can read it in the tea leaves, the tea of things. I hear that the modern way of saying truth is the tea. So let me tell you the tea. The tea is that there are those that are working um, and even engaging in mutiny, engaging in seditious conspiracy. And that word is now coming out from the administration, is coming out from the leadership, and they don't fly those words out. And I'm going to tell you, I've used the word treason a lot. And I don't, I never used the word treason before all of this. I just didn't use it unless I'm reading some kind of history lesson or something like that. I just don't get into seditious conspiracy and treason. But our son's case and the evidence confirms that this is seditious conspiracy, that this is treason, and that it is absolutely connected to the intelligence community running the Russia, Russia, Russia. It is absolutely um, uh, intertwined with their seditious conspiracy that started. The paperwork now is saying in 2015 they had to, really did everything they could. They conspired together to affect the election. They conspired together to put out false narratives, to weaponize their power against President Trump, then candidate Trump. And then when he became president, to sabotage his administration, his presidency. They conspired together to go against the will of the people of the United States, which is going against the Constitution. And we have been witnesses to it. And that has led, their conspiracy led to the protection of the cartel infiltration into the politics, compromising, creating all of these narco politicians who profit off of this $1 billion um, network, criminal network. Um, you know, uh, while sacrificing our country, sacrificing our middle class, sacrificing the future of our young people. And it gets even worse than that, right? Because that protection of the criminal network meant that they would orchestrate a mass shooting, that they would silence whistleblowers, that they would destroy people, absolutely destroy people. And you saw that with January 6th. You saw that with whistleblowers in Richard's case. You saw that with Glennon Oakley Jr. You saw that with many, with many. And and it goes on what they've perpetrated in this seditious um, conspiracy to, you know, it just to sabotage, to thwart, to take down President Trump and his administration, and to take down the will of the people, because he was duly elected. And I've been absolutely taken the side of Yvonne Rosales because she was duly elected. She was an upset election, and they did the same thing to her. That was also a seditious conspiracy to remove her and replace her with Bill Hicks. Can you believe it? Bill Hicks gagged me with a spoon, gagged me with a spoon. And so, and he's supposed to be red, right? Um, uh, it just shows you that uh, this is so beyond. what we've been told, this deep state, right? And the infiltrations and who they have. And so when you see the last few days, and we've been just watching it, seeing what would happen with Senator Thune. Senator Thune chairs the Armed Service Committee, sits on the Armed Service Committee that is quiet about what's going on in El Paso, and that's a big deal because of Fort Bliss, because of the criminal trafficking that has infiltrated Fort Bliss, and we have absolute evidence, and he absolutely knows about it. He absolutely knows about it. And all of what has happened with the Chihuahua government, um, and uh, the absolute mutineers, the mutineers like John Kelly, retired General John Kelly, like at the time he wasn't retired, Michael Garrett, like Sean Bernabe, he's still active duty, like Mealy, like, you have someone that's supposed to make sure that our military, that the Pentagon wants the best for our country. And yet they were absolutely committing treason. They were committing treason because we've been at the time of war during this whole thing. So, and aiding and abetting, just think of all the trafficking, all the weapons trafficking, all the equipment trafficking, what happened in Afghanistan, all of the equipment and weapons and ammunition and fuel and everything coming out of Fort Bliss that have been trafficked, and that they were bringing in children, hundreds of thousands of children, to traffic them on the American taxpayer dime through Fort Bliss. And you have Thune now, Senator Thune, uh, um, uh, you know, blocking um, uh, the appointments, the administration of President Trump, and then, of course, the recess appointments. Now doing this little clever conspiracy scheming act. I think it's very criminal, and I think he could be arrested because he is not protecting the Constitution and the right of the President of the United States to make the recess appointments. He is protecting the criminal trafficking, the cartel criminal trafficking, the FTO cartel criminal trafficking. That's what he is protecting. And so, are we shocked? We're not shocked. We were really expecting him to do that because remember, Senator Thune supported Pence, and all this false narrative about January 6th. And we absolutely knew that the narrative about our son was false, the narrative about Walmart mass shooting was false, that the narrative about January 6th was false. We absolutely knew it because we were there. We were there. And of course, we have a lot of overseas experience. Most of our life really has been spent living overseas. And so we understand, have a greater perspective on the military and what they're up to. And we knew that they weren't up to good. Um, in overseas either. And so, and especially 30 years of service. My husband, when you had veterans coming on here trying to convince us that the military doesn't have AK-47s, he's just like, come on. They're such liars. They're just thugs for Fort Bliss. They're just, for the leadership that have profited off of the criminal trafficking. Why else would they get so triggered when we ask just a simple question? Where did Patrick Crucius source his weapons and ammunition and magazines? Where did he source it? Was it from Fort Bliss? Just a simple question like that. And they get very triggered because we know that there were pallets and pallets and pallets of AK-47s, okay? Pallets of them in their wrappers that the military had. So, you know, it is an absolute possibility. And we know that they train using those with these foreign little training operations that they have. So, we have experience in our family, and what makes us sick is that we're not the only family this has happened to, and other families, and they have absolutely been lied to, and we've been lied to over and over and over again. So for Senator Thune to do what he did last night, I guess it was last night or Friday night or whatever, um, is so criminal. I mean, he needs to be arrested. He absolutely needs to be arrested. And everything that he has done, um, is he even legitimate? Because we have so many illegitimate individuals. Did he sign his statement of officer? Because it really seems like he's been bribed, that he is serving foreign and domestic enemies and not his oath of office. So, it really is clear. And then we have what's going on in Texas and in Austin, Texas, the capital, where their legislature, um, rightfully so, there's been uh, a, a a real change in Texas. And we were living in Florida, so we absolutely know what the last few years have been. There's been a huge shift out of different states to Florida, and huge shifts out of different states to Texas. To Texas, absolutely. And because of that, there needs to be a redistricting map. And because of also the lack of oversight by the Texas legislature on Fort Bliss and El Paso, the lack of oversight on El Paso is just shocking. When they have an illegal medical examiner, when they have illegal judges, when they have um, uh, uh, you know, usurpers in the DA's office, right? When they have DAs that are not that are committing perjury, that are not legally installed as a district attorney, and you have cover up over that. When you have an unqualified person assigned or picked to be the chief of police for El Paso ISD, and he is totally connected with big cartel players like Willie Moya and Arturo Alba, and family members to Nadal Baim, family members to the Texas Ranger that was assigned to us, Gustavo Sanchez. I mean, when you have that kind of crime going on, and then the Mayella family on top of that, the crime of the Mayella family on top of that in the Walmart mass shooting, and the crimes of Representative Veronica Escobar on top of all of this again. And Beto O'Rourke, don't forget that Beto O'Rourke went and visited, made him a hero falsely so, and he was a criminal and didn't even tell the public that Ernest Christopher Grant, this media sweetheart, that was a total criminal, and they were making him into a media sweetheart and a hero, lying to the public. That was Beto O'Rourke. That was CNN's Chris Cuomo. That was, how the media was portraying it with their little visits, with their little photo ops and everything, and even giving him access to the governor of Texas. Um, you know, and now you have the Democrats running to Chicago like, oh, this is my sanctuary city, so I don't have to do my job down in Austin, right? In Austin, Texas. I don't have to do my job. And, those mean Republicans, they're not letting us do oversight. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding? It is so clear that the deep state has them, uh, you know, uh, um, has a grip on them. Let's just say that has a grip on them and has forced them out into Chicago to hide out. So to prevent, to sabotage the redistricting maps of Texas that are absolutely necessary and required because of all the changes and the lack of them doing their job. So it is, it is very, very, it's not shocking to us that this is happening because this is mutiny. Really, at the end of the day, this is mutiny against what President Trump is doing. And he wants accountability in Texas. And if they're not going to uh, uh, give the accountability, if they're not going to do their job and oversight, then okay, let's not wait 5 years for the redrawing of the map. Let's check it out now. Let's check it out now and throw these people out and get some people in there that will do their job, right? And so, it's absolutely necessary because there has been a big change in demographics in Texas. So let's redo those maps. But there's going to be this is a battle, right? This is a battle. This is going to be a tit for tat. But the thing is that Trump's stick is much, much, much bigger. It's much bigger because he is the chief law enforcer. He is the chief magistrate. He is the commander in chief. And so, and he's getting the support of the people. You hear Democrats now supporting him, the regular hardworking Democrats supporting him, saying, "Oh my gosh, I think the tariffs are working. I think that the border security measures are working. I think getting these major criminals that came over the border that are illegally here in this country, getting them out of the country is making my neighborhood nicer. It's making my neighborhood safer." And you hear that. Even Chris Cuomo has to admit that he's been wrong. And so, as all of that kicks in, it's really going to show Thune for who he is, that he is a seditious conspirator. And it's going to show the Texas Democrats that ran to Chicago to hide out, to not do their job, and to not allow the redistricting, to show that they are also up to no good, and they're going to be held accountable. I think Ken Paxton was expecting this. He went on record expecting this, warning against it, what they're doing, and so I think they're going to be held accountable. And of course, we have the $1.2 billion power, uh, you know, eh, power staging ground. I mean, it is absolutely an act of power. Um, and uh, e- look, it's not just a camp to deport illegal criminal migrants. Okay. I don't think that takes $1.2 billion. But a battle against the cartel occupied, infiltrated, um, in El Paso, in our institutions, I think that that would take, yeah, that's a battle. That would take some money. That would take some money for that battle. So I think that you can see clearly that this is an internal, I don't want to call it a civil war. But this is mutiny. This is mutiny. Absolutely, there is an internal battle, and President Trump has a bigger stick. He has a bigger stick. That's just the bottom line. And so they're going to just probably play dirty. And you saw that with Thune today. You saw that with the Democrats, desperate. And their press conference was, can you gag yourself quicker? Because they're all saying, oh, they're not allowing us to do our oversight job, which they haven't been doing at all. They just collect um, their money. That's what they do. That's what they care about, and they just have big fat mouths. They just have big fat mouths and go on the radio and just flap that their mouths with all the lies, with all the lies. That's what they're doing. And to mislead the public. And I think that the public has their number now. I think a big majority of the public has their number and is understanding what they're doing. So with Thune, it's serious because he's really weaponizing his power, right? He's weaponizing his power. And so that's why I call it seditious conspiracy. He's part of it now. And I think he can be arrested. He can be absolutely indicted for what he has done. Um, so it's, uh, one the hymn that we sang and I posted up today, "A Mighty Fortress is Our God." I can't sing that hymn without like crying. It's just is so powerful, and not crying because of sad or being emotional. The power of it, the absolute truth to power of that hymn is will bring you to tears, right? Will just bring you to tears. So we are, in this. Um, and we're in it for righteousness' sake. We're in it to get Richard's body, his remains. We're in it to get justice, accountability, and I think that more and more Americans are feeling the same way because there are so many victims now. They have just done us in. They've done us in for decades, and our children. They've done us in for decades, and our children. And I think that we've got their number now. Well, we've got a backbone now, right? We were all like the verse that was sent to me, kind of pleading for mercy, and I'm not the one that they should worry about, right? I'm not the one that they need to seek mercy from. They need to seek mercy from God, and God is no buttercup, right? He is serious. He is the heavyweight champion of the world. He's the one that carries the biggest stick of all, right? The biggest stick of all, and the biggest host, the biggest uh, angelic hosts. I mean, the biggest army is he is the commander in chief of the most power and the biggest army, and he's the one that you need to ask mercy from, and uh, he requires restitution. That's why he sent his son for our salvation, um, because he requires restitution. And, our commission is to establish justice, his law word, wherever we go. And so, can we um, make our own laws and say, oh, you can commit murder, you can commit this theft, and um, you don't have to follow God's law in it. You don't have to be held accountable the way God's law says. I think that's been our big problem is we've tried to try to rewrite the law, try to not follow God's law. And if the death penalty is there for someone that seditiously, conspiratorially murdered, a whistleblower, then the death penalty it is, right? Then the death penalty it is. That needs to be on the table. And people understand that. And they understand that in the Walmart case. That's why they were so upset when it didn't happen. They understand this in the Walmart case. They understand it in Richard's case. And they absolutely, absolutely, above all, understand it in President Trump's case because there has been no greater seditious conspiracy committed on anyone that like there has been committed against President Trump on President Trump. It's just, and I don't care if you like him or not. What they did was wrong. What they did, in a smaller scale, they did that to Yvonne Rosales. Okay, another smaller scale or big scale. I hate to call it a small scale; it's huge. They did that to Richard, and they did it to Glennon Oakley Jr., um, retaliating against a whistleblower. So it is very clear that all of this is coming out. It's being talked about. People are talking freely about the cartel now, about their crime, about they're sick of them. They're absolutely sick of them. And they're talking about, the Obama Clinton a seditious conspiracy. And absolutely, and do not think that Obama is not connected to El Paso. Obama is connected to El Paso, y'all. We've got the connections. So this was absolutely intelligence driven, um, weaponizing their community, the intelligence community, to um, to commit this seditious conspiracy on so many levels. So, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for passing this on. Thank you for sharing this. Thank you for discussing this with other people. And we will be back tomorrow. We love you. We'll be back tomorrow. And I think justice is in the air. Justice is in the air. Thank you so much. Bye bye.